Thank you for joining me today. It's Brian Gubernick, and welcome to the No Days Off podcast, where we believe that every single day brings a new opportunity to get better. So, just recently, about a week ago, almost 2 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to travel with my family overseas for our summer vacation. We traveled from Phoenix all the way over to Barcelona, Spain. And it is, of course, not a short trip. And, as you can imagine, I spent a fair amount of time watching different TV shows or movies or whatever was airing on American Airlines. Tried to get some work done, tried to read, but there's only so many hours you can do that before you just got to numb yourself of the flight and the hours by watching something. And of course, turned on a variety of things and came across a random show, which is where you typically are going to find random shows when you're sitting on an airline overseas and you're trapped. And I came across a show that discussed the Japanese art form of kintsugi. Kintsugi. Now, Brian, what the hell are you talking about? You're talking about kintsugi and something you learned. How is that going to be applicable to the No Days Off audience? And I got to tell you, I think once we run through this, it's going to make a lot of sense. See, kintsugi is this traditional Japanese art form, and it involves repairing broken pottery with this special lacquer this lacquer is mixed with powdered gold or powdered silver or even platinum. And the term kintsugi literally translates to golden repair or golden joinery, like the joining of something through gold. Now, there's a couple key aspects of kintsugi. Stick with me. I promise you this is going to make sense here in a moment. Kintsugi is rooted in this Japanese philosophy of wabi-sabi is what it's called, which finds beauty in imperfection. And instead of disguising the breakage, kintsugi instead highlights it, celebrating the history and the story of the object. So as you can imagine, with this broken pottery, this special lacquer, you put it back together, but you highlight this special lacquer with gold or silver or platinum. And so it doesn't disguise the breaks, it actually highlights the breaks. And like I just mentioned, it more or less celebrates the story or the history of this object. Now, the technique, for what it's worth, it's got a number of different steps, but you clean the broken pieces. They're reassembled using this lacquer adhesive. Once the pieces are bonded, the visible cracks are then filled in. They're highlighted with this lacquer of gold, silver, platinum, whatever it is. And it's just, you end up with this piece of pottery that's shimmering and has these very visible seams. Now, what does this mean for us? There's symbolism to this. See, kintsugi symbolizes resilience and transformation, and the idea that an object can actually become more beautiful and more valuable after it's been broken and after it's been then repaired. So it's this idea that we should accept change. We should accept imperfection and the belief that scars and flaws actually contribute to an object's unique ability, unique beauty, unique history. So this impact of kintsugi, it's inspired people to really view challenges and setbacks in life as opportunities for growth, opportunities for transformation. Again, it's this idea of embracing imperfections, and in doing so could lead to richer, more meaningful existence. So it's not a repair technique. Kintsugi, yes, it is technically a repair technique, but in my opinion, after watching this, what I took away from it was that it's actually a more profound metaphor for life that encourages us really to see beauty in brokenness. Now, if you're following me, my guess is you probably understand what's going on. Like, you follow what I'm saying. It's a great philosophy. But what are the action steps I can take now that I have this knowledge? Like, it's great to have the knowledge, but what do I now do with it? Well, I've been thinking about that. Like, how do I apply this in my personal world? And there's some obvious things, but maybe not so obvious things. Number one, goes without saying, Kintsugi more or less is telling you to embrace your perfections. So, via self reflection, like reflect on your past experiences, especially the ones that were super challenging, and recognize how have those experiences, as difficult as they were, how have they shaped you? What's the value you can draw? What are the lessons that you've learned? I know there's some things we don't like to think about or bring up, but all these past experiences, especially the challenging ones, they shaped you in some way. There's value, there's lessons learned. So there's some self-reflection there in embracing imperfections. There's also self-acceptance. Like accept your flaws and accept your imperfections. None of us are perfect. These flaws, these imperfections, they contribute to your uniqueness. Now, in addition to embracing imperfections, I think you could also draw from this that we have to repair, we have to renew. What do I mean? Let's take relationships, for example. If you have relationships that have been strained or broken, I mean, Kintsugi would imply that we need to consider ways to mend these strained or broken relationships. How we go about doing that is probably an episode for another day. But it goes without saying that we're going to have to approach whatever situation with honesty and with this willingness to grow from whatever past transgressions or mistakes occurred. Right? So Kintsugi would say mend these broken or strained relationships. How about things that, again, with the theme being repair and renew, how about things that you started, maybe personal projects or things you wanted to pursue, but you ejected, you gave up on? Revisit maybe these old projects or these hobbies that you've abandoned. Maybe there's a way to bring them back to your life with a new, fresh perspective. Maybe there's a way to mend these pieces and highlight the actual fractures of the pottery, recognizing that those highlights, right, are making the piece more beautiful. In other words, your old projects, your old hobbies, these things you have abandoned, maybe they could be more beautiful today. Now, shifting gears, taking from Kintsugi, action items we could take from Kintsugi, I think there's this idea that we should highlight our journey. We've talked about storytelling here recently, especially being that we just interviewed a couple of weeks ago Matthew Dix, one of the greatest storytellers you'll ever hear from. Share your stories of overcoming challenges, overcoming setbacks with others. Kintsugi would say highlight the growth and the positive outcomes that came from those experiences. In addition, like when you're thinking about highlighting your journey, mentor others, right? Kintsugi is about using your experiences and potentially sharing those experiences with others, mentoring others who may be going through something similar, having similar challenges. Your insights can be valuable in guiding them through like difficulties, right? If you picture yourself as broken piece of pottery that's been mended back together through this lacquer and been filled in with powdered gold, as I was describing the Kintsugi process. Lots of people are presently broken pieces of pottery that have yet to be mended. So Kintsugi would say play a role in mending those pieces. It's your responsibility. Lastly, I think around Kintsugi, there's a lot of mindset at play there. We've got to positively reframe certain things. Like when you encounter a setback, reframe it as an opportunity for growth. I love what Jocko Willink always says about this. Jocko Willink has that whole, bit where he says, didn't get what I wanted here. Good. Got tapped out while I was wrestling. Good. Like lost it at this game. Good. Because in every one of those scenarios, even though it may not be the outcome you desired, it's good that you have the opportunity to learn and grow from those scars, grow from those setbacks. So there's a positive reframing that things are good. And of course, in doing that, it aids in building resilience, cultivating resilience by regularly reflecting on the challenges that you've had and your ability to overcome them, recognizing your ability to overcome them. This builds a lot of confidence and it prepares you for future difficulties maybe future acts of Kintsugi. So, the focusing question for you today: how does this Kintsugi concept, this Japanese art form, how does it apply in your world? Maybe you've put certain things back together and you recognize that they're more beautiful now that they're back together than they ever were before. And you highlight the scars and you recognize the history. But maybe there's some things in your life right now that these pieces are still laying around and have not been put back together yet. Not only have they not been put back together, we haven't looked at those scars, we haven't looked at those cracks and highlighted them as badges of honor. In other words, things that we that built our relationship, made it stronger, and led us to an even greater future. That's all I have for you today, the No Days Off podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, every single day brings a new opportunity to get better. So let's get after it.